Oh. Minor technical difficulties, I think.
Now they're starting, I think.
Okay, there we go. Everything's golden. Alright, we've talked a bit about Patwah, and I do want to mention some stuff about OddBod, because OddBod is no slouch when it comes to Shovel Knight. He's also the second place runner in the Plague of Shadows any percent category, and I think his time is 40 minutes even, which is absolutely insane for Plague Knight.
Yeah, he was going for sub 40 for a while, and then he got the 40 minutes flat and decided that was good enough.
Oh my god, the sync was amazing for a little bit there.
So this first stage, the plains, is a pretty easy stage, not anything scary going on. The different skulls collected are influenced by the route that the runner decides to be using.
Yeah, so far it seems that they're both going to go Bounding Soul route. I wasn't sure what OddBod would use. I'm not too sure what routes people outside of Mumu and Tolu and Patwah use. So it looks like they're both going Bounding Soul.
OddBod actually uses Skelebro route, and a lot of Skelebro runners do get that first Red Skull just because it doesn't lose very much time.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to get to than some of the other ones in Lich Yard that you could get.
I do believe that neither runner will be picking up this health upgrade. I know Patwah won't. Let's see if OddBod does.
Did Patwah mean to not get that skull at the dive grade?
He could have. Oh, OddBod is getting the extra health, okay.
Or did he miss it and I just didn't notice it? Or he did not miss it, huh?
I'm not sure.
I don't know, he dashed past it on my screen and it was still on his stream, as though he hadn't collected it anyway.
Both runners have 6 skulls right now, so I don't think it'll be that much of a problem for Patwah. I could be wrong.
That means he
might
got
wind up. Oh, okay. He might wind up needing extras if he didn't, but I think he definitely did because he has 6. So now he's in the Black Knight fight, and he actually messed up the stun lock on Black Knight. That'll lose him a considerable amount of time.
Yeah, in order to get the stun lock, you need to let Black Knight walk past that waterfall that's on the right side of the screen before you begin hitting him again. As OddBod is showing off now. Unfortunately, Patwah, I'm not sure what happened.
Patwah actually just died to Black Knight, which I've not seen at all this tournament. That's a unusual thing.
Yeah. Oh well, it's still anyone's race. It is only the first level.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm guessing it's just race jitters.
Yeah, anything can happen in a race. A lot of times I see people have, including myself, have significantly worse runs in the race, just kind of making little mistakes here and there because it's intimidating to be live like that.
Alright, OddBod moving through the tower hub, Patwah shortly behind. So I believe both runners will be using the same level route. Or no, they won't, because OddBod uses Skelebro. My apologies.
Both runners will be entering the Flying Machine first, though, which is the only stage that that you go through without the Judgment Rush and Rail Mail other than the planes. The reason that you do Flying Machine first in the speedrun is because you can collect the Judgment Rush, which essentially allows you to teleport across the screen, which allows for a lot of really good skips, and the Rail Mail is collected after this stage, which allows you to skate on your scythe and move a lot faster than the base movement speed.
Yeah, it also lets you move over spikes. Another reason Flying Machine is done this early is because I believe it has the most gold out of any level in the game. I might be wrong about that, but at least for the speedrun, it has all the gold you need in all the right spots, that even if you take safety gold, they're not too far out of the way.
Yeah, so about the gold, we definitely will be seeing a lot of the runners breaking the checkpoints in this stage, which can be extremely scary, because if you die in this stage with the broken checkpoints, you have to restart from the beginning, and it's already not the fastest stage. But I believe the runners will probably leave a checkpoint or two for safety and get other money. So OddBod just entering the first auto-scroller, and Patwah shortly behind.
Oh, OddBod scared me by taking damage from that cannonball, because I've done that same thing and then died. And Patwah choosing to not do any kind of showboating on the ladder up through the beginning of the auto-scroller.
I find that Patwah usually doesn't go for... Actually, that's wrong. He does go for swag in the Tinker Knight auto-scrollers sometimes. It's very, very fun to watch.
Alright, OddBod decides to break the 750 checkpoint after the auto-scroller, which, I mean, that's normal in an optimal route. And I guess he hasn't really picked up any of the safety gold, so that makes sense. He has all the money he'll need though now, because you want bare minimum 5,400 before you end this level. But the more the better, of course. Patwah chooses to leave that 750 checkpoint, which is good, depending on what type of trick he goes for in the room OddBod just finished. Alright. The propeller meanies are giving OddBod some trouble, but he got through the room safely, which is the most important thing in that room. We'll see how Patwah fares, dashing over them. Well done.
That room is typically one of the hardest in this stage because the hover meanies are very random in how they go, and it's hard to recover from when they push you off the platforms.
Right, another reason that Flying Machine is done first is that a lot of the curios, Specter's relics, don't really help too much against Propeller Knight, since you don't have a long amount of time to get damage before he proceeds to the second phase, and even then, Spectre can attack so much faster than the other two characters, or playable characters, that it's almost no different.
So Patwah actually did get the optimal quick kill, I believe, on Propeller Knight. OddBod's struggling a little bit, letting him get away, but not very far behind.
Alright, so next Patwah will be heading to the Explodatorium after making some purchases. Pika Pete, what do you think of Judgment Rush?
I think Judgment Rush is definitely the best item in the game, if not, like, the best item overall throughout all three characters. It basically allows you to skip entire rooms of the game by slashing and teleporting onto other enemies. So it's definitely useful in the speedrun.
It most certainly is. As is the Rail Mail, which both players have now acquired.
So the Rail Mail allows the Specter Knight player to grind on the scythe like a skateboard or a surfboard when you hold down after landing, and the movement speed is significantly faster than walking. So we're going to be seeing OddBod going to the Lich Yard stage and Patwah going to the Explodatorium stage because of their route difference, because both of these stages award different weapons at the end.
Yeah, OddBod will need a couple more skulls, which he actually won't get until the level he does after Lich Yard, in order to get his next item. Patwah will have everything he needs for his next relic after this stage. And something that we should note about Explodatorium, which Patwah's making look extremely easy, is that all those exploding pot lids and things he just passed are on a global cycle the moment you start the level. So you can't mess up any of your movement in order to go as fast as possible.
Yeah, the global cycles in this room in this level can actually waste quite a bit of time. They don't seem like it at first, but when you miss them, you really realize how much they do. They do waste.
Because one small time waste in one room can just spiral out of control and snowball into more in later rooms.
So OddBod is actually nearing the end of the Lich Yard, where he will be fighting the Phantom Striker. and he's fighting the Phantom Striker instead of Specter Knight, because in this game, Specter of Torment, you play as Specter Knight, so they had to make the boss different.
I think it would have been fun to fight Specter as Specter.
That would have been very hard to write.
Time travel, done.
So this fight with the Phantom Striker is usually led with a rush, and then basically just allowing him to teleport and hit you while you hit him a bunch of times while he's weak. And the Plague Knight fight that Patwah is in currently is basically the same. Well, actually, no, not at all. You just want to hit him as much as you can and make sure you lock onto the right Plague Knight, because he makes clones of himself.
Yeah, I just realized there's an interesting dichotomy between these two routes, because the third boss you fight, Plague Knight in the Bounding Soul route and Phantom Striker in the Skeletal Sentry route, both of these fights, you don't have your extra projectile relic to help you out, so both of these fights are actually slower than the other route, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. It's a bit of a trade-off of both routes.
Yeah.
So now they're in the first memory stage, basically in sync, where they play as Donovan, who is Specter Knight's past self, before he became Specter Knight. So these are shorter mini levels, but all of the money gathered in these levels actually carries over into the present. So the runners are probably going to be grabbing as much money as they can.
It's like I'm watching the same speedrun, almost.
So even though the runners are in sync, it appears, almost, Patwah is actually ahead because OddBod will be needing to do Tinker Knight stage right now, while Patwah will be, and Tinker Knight stage is very long, while Patwah will be doing Tinker Knight stage significantly later with more upgrades and not having to worry about getting more skulls.
Alright, sorry about that, folks. Working out something behind the scenes. Let's see. OddBod is about halfway through the Clockwork Tower. Patwah halfway through Lost City. That was some incredible movement by Patwah. I didn't even know you could do that. So something to note about the Lost City and Rail Mail is that the goo blocks that Patwah is running into, normally when you collide with them they knock you back, but because of the skating, that actually kind of cancels out the momentum. And then to move that goo drop without hitting it, he shot a Bounding Soul at it, which for some reason the game reads as it hitting the goo drop from behind.
So Patwah is nearing the end of Mole Knight stage, the Lost City, getting the second beetle skip as if it was nothing, and OddBod is still near the beginning of Tinker Knight stage, which is a very, very long stage. He just got out of the first auto-scroller. And so Patwah is now going to be facing off with Mole Knight, who he's fighting without the upgraded Bounding Soul. But Mole Knight's still a very quick fight, even without the upgraded soul. So now Patwah is purchasing the upgrade for the Bounding Soul. So now the Bounding Soul is significantly stronger because he can send out 4 at a time instead of 2 at a time, and it pierces through enemies when it hits them instead of disappearing. So this item is actually a very powerful item that makes a lot of the fights significantly faster because the Skeletal Sentry cannot really shoot vertically, but the Bounding Soul bounces all over the place. So especially in the Nightmare Reese fight, or Dark Reese fight, which Patwah's in right now, it makes it significantly easier to hit him. Skeletal Sentry route has a bit of problems in this fight because he actually goes above where the Sentry can hit him a lot. So now OddBod is entering the fight with Tinker Knight, who has 2 phases. In Shovel Knight and Plague of Shadows, the first phase is kind of seen as treated as a joke fight, but in Specter of Torment, it's actually pretty scary because Tinker Knight's gear that he has can deal a full heart of damage. But OddBod making quick work of that first phase.
Yeah, that was fast for a fight with no items.
Yeah, really. And now he's going to be basically Judgment Rushing between Tinker's 2 locations that he can fly to so that he doesn't fall down, and bouncing off of him when he's not moving. He did fall down there, but it wasn't that bad. He still has all the darkness he needs for the quick kill.
Yeah, unfortunately he mistimed a couple of his rushes so they didn't hit him, which cost him a little bit of time, but no big deal, because he's still in range to dash slash. And Patwah actually has been making clean work of the Iron Whale. He's landed the Snail Parade strat, and I think the only other thing I've seen him miss has been the Tentacle Room. He fudged up his movement a little bit. But now he's coming up on Teethalon, or 420 Fish, as some people affectionately call him. So after a short auto-scroll, he will fight a mini-boss. And the Bounding Soul route that Patwah does has an easy time with this boss, because you can either jump and fire successive Bounding Souls in the air, or just stand in a certain spot on the platform after the auto-scroller and line up 4 shots immediately. Either way, the boss takes 12 hits to kill.
And now OddBod is upgrading his Skeletal Sentry, which makes it fire. He bought the Skeletal Sentry and then immediately upgraded it, instead of playing a level with the unupgraded Sentry. The Sentry upgrade basically just makes it shoot more.
Yeah, it fires more faster. And it has more health. You can take 1 more hit before disappearing.
So it is a bit less helpful in the Reese fight. As you can see, he just dodged every single one of those hits from the first shot of the Skeletal Sentry.
Yeah, it's definitely more effective versus certain patterns that Reese may have, like as you saw at the end there with Reese running across the arena. The Bounding Soul is definitely a little bit more helpful in that you can at least hit Reese when he's in the air too.
So now Patwah is coming up on Treasure Knight. Really nice save from him on that missile room.
Yeah, Treasure Knight is possibly the easiest boss in any percent, regardless of route.
I would agree with that. Both the Skeletal Sentry and the Bounding Soul absolutely melt him. He's gone very quickly, and he's not usually very threatening. His Anchor attack can deal a full heart of damage, but other than that, he doesn't really have any threatening attacks. He goes down before any of his real attacks really come out.
OddBod opted not to use the Judgment Rush strat for the Manta Ray room. It's different.
And Patwah just bought his first Darkness upgrade of his route, and now he'll be entering the Lich Yard.
Yeah, movement-wise, aside from any personal differences, you won't generally see too much different from Patwah than you would OddBod, as far as how he might approach most rooms. Aside from the Bounding Souls there, which I have never seen him do. But the main difference for Patwah will be the way he fights Phantom Striker. And then OddBod now has to fight Teethalon. And if he wants to go for it, he can set up a Skeletal Sentry and then do his own sort of one-cycle kill. It's not as fast as the Bounding Soul, of course, but it still is faster than waiting for the fish to go to the right side of the screen and come back. It looks like he's going to go for it. I think the sentry's just a little too far to the left, but I might be wrong. No, he got it. Excellent.
That was an excellent quick kill on the Tito one. So as you can see, Patwah is actually going through the Lich Yard significantly faster than OddBod could have, because Patwah doesn't have to worry about collecting any red skulls or money in this stage, because he already has every upgrade that he needs. He doesn't have to worry about money for pretty much the rest of the run. And now OddBod's entering the room with the fish that is known as Bertha in the speedrunning communities, who actually deals 2 full bubbles of damage when she hits you. So this room is pretty scary, and she can only be killed with the anchors, which OddBod did get there.
Yeah. Dread Talent, the Curio, will kill her as well. We don't have that in any percent, of course.
Alright. So Patwah just killed the Phantom Striker, and that was another demonstration of how the Bounding Soul can bounce and get multiple hits per Bounding Soul on Phantom Striker. He killed him in only 2 phases, I believe, whereas OddBod had to wait around for him to come back a lot. So now Patwah is in the second memory level, where he plays Donovan. And at the end of this level is the fight with Shield Knight, which is pretty challenging because she can only be hit from behind when she has her big shield out. And the runners don't have any real weapons in this stage other than the sword, Donovan's sword, and the caltrops, with which Luan gives Donovan at the beginning of the stage. So Patwah will basically be trying to lay out the caltrops so Shield Knight walks over them, and we'll be trying to hit her from behind as much as possible.
Goodness. Patwah giving Shield Knight the business.
And
OddBod
OddBod
showing
is
off. Well, go ahead.
OddBod now showing off the first beetle skip. He did it very well.
Yeah. You also may have noticed that he used Judgment Rush to like stall himself in the air. If there's no enemies around for it to target, it'll just kind of make you float in the air for a moment. So you can actually use that to like reset your ability to wall climb, which I believe OddBod will be showing off in a little bit here.
Ooh, he actually got a bit messed up in the Judgment Rush strat at the end of that room. He rushed the Duck Knight instead of the Slime because the Knight was closer to him. So now Patwah will be going through Tinker Knight stage, and will be going through it a bit faster than OddBod could have because he doesn't have to worry about collecting any skulls.
Nope. Come on, OddBod, you can climb. There you go, buddy. He saved himself.
Yeah, OddBod really showing off the Judgment Rush stall trick. You can use it to reset your wall climb, because when there's no enemies around, as Munch has said, it'll just stall you there. So now OddBod is coming up on the Mole Knight fight. It's a pretty easy fight with the Skeletal Sentry especially. He basically just has to sit the Skelbro down and let it shoot Mole Knight as he does his dashes, and then sit in the corner and slash Mole Knight a bunch of times. Oh no!
If he had blown up the sentry, he would have won. I don't know if he meant to do that air attack as Mole came to the right for the final time.
I don't believe he did.
Because if he hadn't, he would have definitely finished him off.
I think throwing that third sentry out might have been a mistake as well. But this fight's pretty fast. He's not going to lose very much time.
No, I think he only threw out 2, or did he throw out 3? It doesn't matter now, he's past it. Because I mean, I know the strat is to use 2.
I think he may have thrown out a third one accidentally.
Oh, okay, that may have been what caused him to lose his like pattern. Anyway.
Not very much time loss. Now OddBod is in the second memory. So OddBod will basically be doing the second memory the same way Patwah did, because regardless of route, the weapons are the same in the second memory. But Patwah will be showing off another route difference with the Tinker Knight fight.
Whoa!
Oh. Very unfortunate death right there.
It's okay, it was right next to the checkpoint, so... Literally the best place to die in the entire game if you had to pick one.
Yeah, not too much time loss. OddBod's deaths haven't been very bad. So now Patwah approaching the Tinker Knight fight, and he'll be showing off the benefits of the Bounding Soul in fights where the sentry doesn't really have anywhere to be placed. So he'll be bouncing the Bounding Soul all over Tinker Knight in both phases of the fight. So instead of using the Judgment Rush in this fight, the Bounding Soul Runners actually throw... Oh, actually, he did have to use the Judgment Rush there.
He did because he got hit by a missile, unfortunately. And that's
Ooh,
the challenge
now he's down.
with the Soul fight, is that if you speed up the fight, you can actually, as what happened to Patwah, you can get yourself in a position where like a missile will be somewhere where you don't expect it to be. So it's just another thing that, like, as you're doing the fight, you have to kind of mentally adjust and figure out what the best timing is to do everything.
So now OddBod is in the Explodatorium, which he will be doing faster than Patwah could have, because he doesn't have to worry about getting any extra money or skulls or anything.
Yeah, he's also able to get a faster kill on the Alchemeister mini-boss. As well as Plague Knight if he knows the proper setups for them.
Yes, both fights are way easier with the Skeletal Sentry. The Skeletal Sentry makes getting a phase 1 kill before the Alchemeister can transform. It makes it basically automatic, as long as you hit him enough times with your scythe while the Sentry is shooting as well. And it makes Plague Knight significantly easier because there's always basically hitboxes out trying to shoot Plague Knight that will hit the real one, because they go through enemies. They don't disappear when they hit one enemy.
Yeah, and furthermore, each sentry shot, like if the sprite is big enough, like an enemy like Polar Knight, one projectile can hit an enemy multiple times, similar to the Chaos Sphere in the Shovel of Hope campaign. Alright, OddBod's got the moves. Getting that turnaround on the skating is pretty difficult. Well, not pretty difficult, but it's harder than it seems.
Yeah, OddBod made very quick work of that mini-boss. And Patwah is in King Knight stage, which is a stage that really shows off how good the Judgment Rush is, because it allows a lot of rooms to be skipped by slashing enemies at the end of the screen. As you can see him do right there with the Griffin. And OddBod is nearing the Plague Knight fight. Ooh, he actually got hit by the rat, but he saves himself with the Judgment Rush. If he didn't have the magic to rush there, that would actually have been a death for him. So, good save. And now Patwah is entering the King Knight fight, which is another fight that is advantageous to have the Bounding Soul for, because King Knight actually makes his platforms move in random ways. And if he falls in a hole, he will fly up with a rat, and he'll be basically unhittable for the sentry. But that didn't happen for Patwah anyways, because he killed him fast enough before that phase would happen. So now he's in a third memory, but this memory is just a cutscene, so he can skip it. And OddBod opting to buy the last darkness upgrade.
Yeah, you don't. With either route, you don't necessarily need that last bit of darkness, at least for Pridemore Keep. For Stranded Ship, it definitely helps for the Skeletal Sentry route, just because the Sentry itself costs more darkness to use than the Bounding Soul does.
So now both runners are basically in sync with going through the Stranded Ship, but because of the route difference, OddBod still has to do Pridemore Keep. So now we're going to be seeing a mini-boss with this big bird coming up, and we'll be seeing another difference between the two routes in the setup that is used to kill this boss.
Yeah, Patwah is able to get a faster kill, and OddBod unfortunately missed the one advantage of having the slightly slower kill, is that you can skate and then jump off screen and make it to the checkpoint without having to climb the ladder, which almost offsets the time difference between the fights.
Both the Bounding Soul and the Skeletal Sentry shots can actually activate all switches, so you can see Patwah bouncing his Bounding Soul to hit the switches so that he doesn't have to hit them himself. And OddBod did that in a previous room, and he just did it there too.
Wow, that was the most interesting gnarly toss I've ever seen. Like, it's much harder to do that with the Skeletal Sentry because it requires such a precise positioning. Not that it's not tricky with the Bounding Soul, but the Bounding Soul makes it a bit easier. Wait, Patwah didn't collide with that skater. What happened?
They only have the collision on the skaters in that room is actually really weird. Sometimes they just kind of don't collide.
It looked like he should have. Oh well, not important, I guess.
So now Patwah is going to be entering the Polar Knight fight.
Yeah, OddBod has an easier setup with the Skeletal Sentry thanks to the fire and forget mentality. Whereas Patwah's quick kill, or fight rather, is just much more position dependent. Yeah, like you can see, there, even though OddBod was like a bit more behind, like 10 seconds behind, he caught all of that up just because of the difference in the kills.
So now Patwah is going to be entering the last main level before the final boss, Tower 1, where he'll be fighting Black Knight and Terrapin at the end. But OddBod still has to do King Knight stage, Pridemore Keep, before he can do that. Patwah actually opted to use less rushes in that room to conserve darkness. That may be because of the route difference, but it could just be he wants to have more darkness to be able to save himself if he needs to.
Yeah, well I noticed Moo doing that too. Goodness, that was a scary strat. Holy moly, Patwah. But I noticed Moo also doing that. And I looked at it and then went and timed it myself, and it's actually like just as fast or possibly faster than Judgment rushing that second archer, since you can get up onto the platform and proceed in basically the same speed.
So Patwah is getting essentially the optimal skip of this Crusher room. He didn't get hit by the gold armor, So he got the one cycle in the Crusher. He didn't have to wait.
Yeah, thanks to Patwah, I actually learned the setup for like the guaranteed Crusher quick cycle. Like you just have to do the same setup Patwah does when you enter the room, and it will work every time.
And so now we're seeing the return of Bertha. She's significantly scarier in this room just because of the layout, but Patwah's actually going to be using her to bounce off and get into the next room. He made very, very quick work of that room.
Alright, let's see how OddBod's books are. Are they quick? Yeah, they're average. Nice damage boost though on the lava. I was worried.
Those are some pretty nice books. And now he'll be entering the King Knight fight, which is more challenging on his route. Again, because King Knight has potential to fall down into a pit, and when he does so, he'll fly up on the top of the screen and go somewhere where Skeletal Sentry can't hit him.
Yeah, the other downside is he can actually get rid of the sentry as well, because both King Knight or Spectre could knock the sentry into a pit.
Yeah, that actually happened to OddBod twice, but he still made very quick work of King Knight.
Yeah, the first couple volleys at least got off a few shots on King, which helped a lot.
So now, Patwah is in Black Knight 2, which is arguably the hardest fight in the game. He's opting to fight him on the ground instead of in the air, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
He has a bit of a stun lock going on him, which is really, really interesting.
You can do that. I've seen Patwah do it before. I've tried doing like this same strat myself, and I can't figure out the exact timing to get that second ground hit. And then Patwah took advantage of something that I don't think a lot of runners realize. But when Black Knight, when he gets down to one hit remaining, he will automatically fly onto Terror Pin. And in that situation, you can then jump and dash slash at the right time. And even though you'll target Terror Pin, Spectre's hitbox on the dash slash is so large that you will still hit Black Knight.
Yeah, when Black Knight is on top of Terror Pin like that, it's very challenging to get that last hit. So with the setup that Muncha just mentioned, it makes it a bit easier. It can waste a lot of time if he gets back up there with only one hit remaining.
Yeah, and the worst thing is that, oh nice, OddBod's getting the right setup for the Crusher route as well. Nails it.
He didn't even have to hit the spike ball back.
Yeah. But we'll see how OddBod fares with the Black Knight fight. I don't know if he chooses to go for, oddly enough, Patwah's strat of knocking a Black Knight off Terror Pin with the Sentry, which you can also accomplish. Or if OddBod will try and go for the mid-air, like, stun lock. The mid-air one is a bit riskier if you fail it because it requires you to take damage from Black Knight in order to stay in the air. And just in that situation, then you're really out of luck because Black Knight gets back onto the ground, there's more attacks, and then if he gets back in the air, well, you have no health to deal with it.
So now Patwah is entering the Enchantress fight, which is another fight that is sped up by the Bounding Soul. We'll see if he decides to Judgment Rush under the stage to get the quick kill.
If he had gotten maybe one, ooh, still going for it. Holy moly.
Oh, that last rush. That was extremely risky, but he pulled it off.
Like myself, I will go for it if she has 7 hits remaining, because then you don't have to use that Judgment Rush. I usually don't have the mana for that either. But my goodness, that was incredible by Patwah.
So now he's in the Nightmare Reese fight, which is, again, made easier by the Bounding Soul because Skeletal Sentry has nowhere to be placed. But this fight is actually extremely random because the rail patterns are actually generated completely randomly. So the rail patterns can either help or hinder a runner. And with this being the last fight in the game, all of his attacks deal a full bubble of damage. So this fight is very challenging, especially in the speedrun. But Patwah made very quick work of it, getting around a 39-39, which is an amazing time for a race.
Alright, OddBod is going for the mid-air stun lock.
He almost dropped it, but he actually did save it.
Yeah.
Ooh, he knocked him off. I don't know if he did that on purpose or not, but it is working out for him. He's getting the Skeletal Sentry, getting some hits on him.
Alright, and OddBod knows the secret.
So, Patwah is the winner. He did complete the game first. But OddBod is still on pace to get a very, very good time. He will be buying the Striker's Shawl, which it removes the ability to grind on rails, but it allows for Spectre to do a charge attack that deals extra damage. So on the Skeletal Sentry route, it's very useful to get that for the final two fights.
Yeah, I don't think Patwah's actually too far, or not Patwah, excuse me, OddBod is too far behind his PB. For reference, Patwah was about a minute behind his PB, which is still insane to be that close to that in a race.
According to speedrun.com, OddBod's PB is a 42.54.
Yeah, so he should be pretty close.
So this first area before the Enchantress is kind of slow. There's a challenging room at the beginning, but then the rest of it is a bit of a wait. Now he's entering the Enchantress fight. So we'll see what setup he opts to do with the Skeletal Sentry. Opting for the damage boost there.
Yeah, for both routes, Sentry and Bounding Soul, there's a certain... Like, it's all about the timing you use to manipulate kind of where Enchantress will fly at the start of the fight. After that, you don't really have any say in it. Unfortunately. Enchantress is having none of that today.
He actually is using Skeletal Sentry explosions to deal some extra damage to her under the stage, which is very, very smart.
Oh no. Ooh! I am not sure what OddBod's plan was.
That was a very unfortunate death. But he's still on pace to get a very good time. More use of the Skeletal Sentry to hit her under the stage. None of the shots actually did hit her, which is very unfortunate. Only one sentry left. He opts to blow it up. He only has to hit the Enchantress with 2 more charge slashes. And that will do it for the Enchantress on OddBod's end. Now he'll be fighting Nightmare Reeves without an extra weapon, but he still does have that charge slash. He didn't skip the text, which is kind of interesting. OddBod is landing quite a bit of hits with on Nightmare Reeves. Getting some pretty okay rail RNG. Didn't get the phase skip though, which is pretty rare for a Skeletal Sentry route, but is possible. And that will be time for OddBod. What did you think about those 2 runs, Muncha?
Welcome, OddBod.
Hey!
Good run, man.
Yeah, it was pretty solid. Had some dumb deaths though. The one against Mole Knight kinda... I don't know.
It happens.
That was just weird.
It was still a very good run.
Yeah, I'm happy that I'm least. Like, I didn't screw up too much, I guess. That's something at
No,
least.
like you nailed that 420 fish quick kill with Sentry. That was incredible.
And there were some interesting uses of the sentry to hit switches in the stranded ship.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, the Nalitos thingy.
Yeah, I've never seen someone use like that exact setup. It was interesting.
Oh, I think it got found like the new setup. I think Mumu found it basically when everybody switched over to basketball route. So nobody uses it anymore.
Yeah, I think I did because I was still using the Sentry route.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But no, like a lot of people forget that it exists.
I mean, that trick used to be so hard with the old strat, and now it's just kind of free, honestly. But yeah, I mean, you know, wasn't really expected to beat Patwah, so I'm still happy that, and you know, I got a decent run at least. Congrats to him, of course, good run. I saw sub 40 in the race channel. That's incredible.
Yeah.
We've been seeing really good times in this tournament so far. We've seen a sub 40 from both Mumu and Patwah. Which is absolutely incredible in a race scenario. Incredible anyways, but especially in a race.
Let's see. How does the bracket look now? Let's see. So Patwah will play whoever wins between Tolu and Amps. And then looks like OddBod will play against whoever wins between Eric DLC and Kenny. All right. Well, anybody have anything they want to say before we sign off?
No. Everything has been said.
All right, so that will be the race. I am PikaPete2688.
I am Munchakoopas, and of course, behind the scenes, making everything happen is Feasel, the Iron Man of Speed Gaming. Thank you for all you do, sir.
Yes, thank you very much to Feasel. And we hope to see you here for the next race. I believe there is another race happening tonight.
Yeah, I think that's coming up in about 3 hours, actually.
Yeah, so we hope to see you there, and have a good day to all.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.